right, how is it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 6, I believe, if I know how to count correctly, to Tire Talk with Atturo Tires. I am your weekly host, as always, here, clearly from the office, Colin, with my co-host Joe, and special guest this week, Jonny Mill. Thank you for joining us. I will have to make a little bit of an admittance before the beginning of the show. I may have to get my hair cut. I know everybody loves the style I've worked in here behind the hat, but I think I may have to disappoint everybody, and I may have to chop it off. So we'll see how that goes. There may be too much outcry because of that. But Jonny, thanks for joining us. How about you take a little bit to introduce yourself, and we'll get into the show.
Yeah, Jonny Mill. Been in the industry, a little over a decade. Got my start with a product that I brought to market called the E-Stop. It was actually a mobility product that dawned on me. It's also a hot rod product, but I always like to say that I got into the automotive industry later than normal. I didn't grow up in the industry. Most guys were in the garage with their dad, wrenching away, and always kind of knew that that's their path. Mine was a little bit more of a late entry. But once I found it, I didn't realize I was lost in my career until I found the automotive industry, and the sense of community, right, brought me right in. So I'm sure we'll go over more stuff that I've been involved in as we move along, but a knucklehead, just like the rest of us, right?
I think that's a good point you make, how you entered the industry late, because a lot of people think oh, I have to have everything figured out by the time I graduate high school and figure out what college I'm going to go to and figure out what job I'm going to get afterwards and this and that. And I mean, I always kind of liked cars, but not really until I turned 16, 17 did I start actually wrenching. My dad was never really into that personally, kind of like you said. So I didn't really grow up around it. I mean, it's been what, I'm 22 now, 8 years around cars, around wrenching, around the industry, but it's not, I definitely didn't grow up with a wrench in my hand like some of these people have. It's well, son, you're going to work on cars when you get older because that's what I did, and that's what my dad did, and that's what his dad did. So you're going to just love cars and this and that, and then I'm going to give you a 67 Firebird for your birthday, and you're going to drive that to school, and all the kids are going to be jealous.
Well, you're 22, man, and when I was 22, I hated always to hear this, but you're so young, man. You got you're early. You're early.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't enter the industry until I was 25, and then by the time I was 30, ended up somehow being in charge of Hot Rod Magazine. So the acceleration you can get in this industry is pretty incredible. Owe that a lot of that to SEMA, though.
Yeah, I think because people think in the aftermarket industry is huge, and it is, but it's also it's big, but it's also very tightly knit, and it's very much encouraging to people to get into it, and there's a lot of assistance for people who need that, and people who are trying to take a new path, trying to kind of learn something maybe that they aren't the best at, or kind of opening up a new door. There's a lot in the industry that can help you with that, especially with organizations like SEMA.
Yeah, for sure.
So you were the first ever SEMA Launchpad winner.
Yeah.
So nobody else can ever say that. That's literally, you're gonna be the only person to hold that title. What do you want to talk a little bit about how that was, just the whole experience of doing it for the first year, I guess?
Yeah. So I mean, the prize package I wish was as what it is today. I mean, they get you get thousands of dollars, you get on the big stage. So the very first one was actually done in the main hall in the central area.
Yeah.
Before you in between the north hall and
Yeah.
the central hall. And people didn't even know what was going on. They just kind of walked by what the hell is that over there?
Yeah.
So I think I had a bit of an advantage as well, right? So it was 4 e-stop, push button emergency brake, doubles as an anti-theft device. So perfect solution for a custom classic car that either doesn't want that lever or wants to be able to hide it, use a key fob, and protect their car, locks up the brakes. So it was a cool, innovative product. Nobody else was doing it. I saw the market fit after developing it for the mobility industry. I was a huge enthusiast. Like I said, I was late to the game for the industry, but always been into cars. Actually owned a SEMA vehicle in my super early 20s before when I still thought SEMA was just a show and not an association. So
the real question is, did you pay the SEMA tax to buy that car that was at the SEMA show?
No.
Because if it goes to SEMA, you can immediately charge $20,000 to $30,000 more for that. That's how it goes. Just because it was there.
The exposure dollars is exposure
Yeah,
dollars.
it was a 2005. I want to say 2005 Lincoln Aviator.
Ooh.
With like 23 screens. I mean, this is back when I I was living in Hollywood at the time. I was wilding out a little bit, and I mean, it had full sound system, 22s in the back, 20s in the front, two-tone paint. Thing was ridiculous.
I mean, that was the thing back then. It's crazy how much SEMA has changed in terms of reflecting the current trends of the industry, and how it used to be so much more cars, and now it's like 70 to 80% trucks, and just trucks, and that's how it's been for the last however many years. So I wonder how that trend is going to change from being exclusively like nearly trucks. And I mean, especially this last year, it was literally the Jeep Gladiator and Supra show. That's I don't think I could look in a single direction walking around the show and not see a Gladiator or a Supra.
For sure. I mean, that just goes to show you the market changes all the time. I mean, in the 80s, there was vans on the cover of Hot Rod magazine. So
yeah. So you also won the SEMA Innovator Award. Was that for the same product? Was that for something different?
That I like to think was just kind of like my overall strategy entering the industry. Because at that time I'd already sold out of E-Stop, had a successful exit there, and started Keyway Innovations, which was like a product development house for other people. Tons of white label projects. I invested the E-Stop money into a bunch of different things: media, manufacturing, even like food related stuff. My wife's a chef, so tried to diversify a little bit, but always was in the automotive industry, focused on advertising. Before I got in the automotive industry, I was actually writing television commercials full time. So
really,
I always knew I was going to kind of go circle back to the media side. I don't even have an engineering degree, so developing that product, I really just kind of stood on the shoulders of smarter people as we developed it together. I mean, I know how to program the units and stuff, but I didn't write the program. I got smart people to do that for me. So the Innovator, award was definitely a highlight of my career. And part of that was just the networking, I think, as well. I mean, that's some of the accolades you get within the industry, no matter what industry you're in, is about building that network and building that kind of personal brand equity with everybody involved. So, I mean, I even got to ride with Chris Kirsting a few years before I won the award, 3 hours on Power Tour, which, I mean, you can't get 5 minutes of that guy's time. So having him stuck in a 1935 Ford pickup, shoulder to shoulder, no AC, going through Tennessee together, built a little bit of bond. So I like to think that helped as well.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite like kind of events to follow is Power Tour, like just as a unique kind of event, just because there's nothing. It's just cool to see drag cars like that drive around with, trailers and stuff behind them going all these. It's definitely a cool thing to see all these cars go all over the place.
Yeah, Drag Week's the one with all the drag cars and trailers.
Oh, that's right. That's Drag Week.
Yeah.
Which is like a drag racing version of
Power Tour.
The muscle things.
So,
because that's when Ian went with you too, wasn't it? That one of the years, at least, actually.
Yeah, that was the year I was talking about. I had to like kick Ian out of my truck and be like, "You're gonna have to take one for the team. I need Chris Kirsting in here with me. I want to talk zero."
Yeah, Joe has it marked here in the show notes that there's fun stories about that that Power Tour. So I don't know if we want to get into a few of those.
I mean, you involve Ian Lane from Boostain, you're gonna have some fun stories. The guy
it's gonna go naturally.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Am I diving right into it?
Go for it. Yeah, go. Let's go.
This is.
Yeah, we got all the time in the world here.
I would say one of the fun stories is that like it's that year. I think it started. I want to say it started somewhere deep in the backwoods of North Carolina that year, and I would say 10 minutes into meeting Ian and hopping in the car and going to fill up for gas, I was like bent over filling up the gas in the back of the truck bed, and Ian's playing on his phone, and come, the guy with the overalls, no t-shirt underneath, picking his belly button, just like, hey boys, it's a pretty little truck you got there. Well, you guys ain't from around here, are you? So there was a bit of a deliverance episode that happened, but we survived it and kept on driving. So there's one for you. Oh, and then another one is Brian Harrison in a rented GT Mustang decided to do a burnout at a stop sign with me right behind him, and did not think of the gravel on the road that would shoot at a show truck. But yeah, that was fun.
So what were you driving in that event?
My wife's 1935 Ford pickup. So it's a vehicle that she worked on with her dad when she was younger. He sold it. We got married, found it, bought it back. It's got a matching teardrop trailer that we camp in, but it's fully customized. It's got a Mustang 2 front clip. It's chopped an inch. It's actually, the cab is stretched 8 inches total. So tons more leg room. Then we shortened the bed 8 inches to keep the overall length of it. I mean, the thing's as trick as it can come.
That's sweet. I think that's like overlanding gone hot rod with the trailer and all that stuff. That's like pretty neat.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that thing off road. I have, but I wouldn't again.
I see in the comments here, Rod Jake has asked, how much R&D are we doing for SUV performance tires? In terms of that, I mean, obviously for obvious reasons, can't get into too much specifics on those sort of things, especially upcoming ongoing products. I'm not gonna. I'll get angry emails or messages as I'm sitting here with my Skype
Not what
open.
The fans want, man. The fans want the inside train. Just like,
I'll get my computer will blow up if I start talking too much about this kind of stuff. But yeah, we are looking into. Are you referring to what we have done in the past, or what we're looking to expand? Because we are always looking to expand our current lineup into new and exciting kind of segments. And I think we definitely have some interesting things coming for the performance line. We've focused a lot on the last few years on the off-road side of the house, which is great because off-roading is huge and trucks are huge, and that's done really well for us. But we also want to be able to make sure we're focusing our energy on all of our products. So I think now that we've created a successful kind of foundation in the off-road market, we're going to start looking to maybe diversify a bit into things like, performance. And I'm more excited in that because, I mean, I like going fast. So we'll see how that ends up. But I mean, I just want a toy to do some R&D with is really what it comes down to.
Like, who doesn't? I think kind of to answer that too is just like a wider tires and as much sidewall as you can get, kind of, and still obviously fitted and get good performance. And obviously try like different compounds too, right? Like softer, not so soft, and middle and all that.
So Jonny, you did mention you started off very early on in your career as the publisher of Hot Rod Magazine. So how did that happen, and what kind of compounded to get you to that point to all of a sudden going from not being in the automotive industry to being the publisher of Hot Rod Magazine?
Yeah, so it was a 5-year process of me jumping into the industry with both feet, and then, maneuvering my way through and somehow getting the awesome opportunity to become publisher and general manager of the Hot Rod Network. And I owe a lot of that just to networking. Obviously, Matthew Boyce was my boss there, and he really sent the elevator down and let me come on board and took a risk with the youngest publisher they ever hired. Someone with no publishing experience. I had only digital media experience. That's what they were looking for because they were doing the transition and acquisition with Discovery Channel. So they were kind of ushering in a new era. Yeah. But it was an awesome job. I mean, I don't know. There's ups and downs with being with a giant corporation.
Yeah.
But being able to like move the needle and try to steer the ship as much as possible. Such a big ship. It didn't steer very far off, right? But we did some pretty cool stuff while I was there, and I'm probably the last publisher of Hot Rod Magazine that'll ever happen as they move to a more digital management style of what the media is.
Do you think there's I mean, obviously you come from the more digital side. Do you think there's still value in a traditional print magazine like Hot Rod? Do you think there's still, in today's market with so much online, everything online? I mean, me and Joe have this conversation constantly as we're talking about running advertisements in certain publications. And I'm like, being somebody who's obviously younger, I cannot remember the last time I read a magazine that wasn't like in the checkout of the grocery store, or B, like actually went to a newsstand looking for a specific magazine. Do you think that there's still value in some demographic out there? And do you think that that value is exponentially decreasing?
I think there's value to the consumer. Absolutely. To an advertiser, it's a hard sell. There's not a lot of easily trackable data. It's very apparent if you just look at what's happened since Discovery was involved that, they're a digital media company. They don't give a shit about print, to be completely frank, and they're very open about that, I think. But I think it needs to be more bespoke. I think, especially with a brand like Hot Rod has an opportunity. If you're going to spin up a print magazine today from scratch, no, don't even try. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But Hot Rod, it's been around for 80 years, like it's 75 years, maybe. I don't know. It's been around for quite a long time. So I think there's value there. But they need to start looking at like, what's the paper quality like? How thin is the magazine getting? Like, I don't want a 100-page pamphlet that has super thin pages. I want something that has a really nice cover. I want something with really meaty stories. They need to bring tech a little bit more back to the forefront of Hot Rod. So there's room for it. There's room for it, but not for like something new, I don't think.
I think it definitely, especially with Hot Rod, just because of the demographic it targets. It's very much like, because it's Hot Rod. It's not targeted towards young people necessarily. I mean, there's young people who read it, but it's definitely the classic industry is still very old in comparison to the new wave of what's coming through. So I think a magazine more targeted like Hot Rod is going to have a little more durability than, I don't know, some other stuff out there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's how you market it, right? I think one of the biggest downfalls for most media companies is the fact that they are where people spend their marketing dollars. So they rarely spend marketing dollars for themselves, which I think is a bad move, especially if you're looking to bring the demographic down to the new age.
Yeah, but do you think that's like kind of hypocritical if you're advertising a print medium online? Do you think that's effective even? Do you think those people are going to?
I'm talking about the overall brand. So
overall Hot Rod brand.
Yeah, Hot Rod's not just a print magazine. Hot Rod Garage. There's tons of elements to what Hot Rod the network is. So I think that you still need to be able to showcase what the digital media side is. Like I said, Discovery wants it to be a digital medium. They want it to be very video heavy and stuff. Like, if you want to take out that, like, market and own it, you got to do certain things to attract in a younger audience.
Well, Discovery is just going huge in terms of trying to even, I think it's even at SEMA the last few years, they have the big Discovery Channel tent for all their brands in terms of automotive, and they're going after now more and more of these YouTubers to try to come to their platform instead of publishing on YouTube. And I see this more and more of people trying to move away from mass market things like YouTube and try to move into something that's better monetized and better focused for them. But I personally don't think that that's as effective. I think you need to do both. At least right now, you need to be on both. I think people aren't willing, the whole YouTube idea of short little videos and this and that, people aren't buying into that fully in terms of like paying for it, I think, yet. YouTube, people don't understand that YouTube is not a medium for media. It is an advertising platform. And that's why long form does better, because you can serve pre-roll, mid-roll, 2 mid-rolls if it's 18 minutes. Like, so that's what YouTube cares about. That's why you see a lot of YouTubers that have tons of filler footage. They would have a really great 8-minute video, but it's 18 minutes because they want to hit the algorithm, check the box, be able to get more monetization on it and make more money. YouTube makes more money. YouTube pushes it out because they're going to make more money off of it.
that's how that works.
Yeah, I think it's with YouTube, it's all about playing the game. But my bigger thing is I don't know if the end user is willing to pay for a subscription like a Discovery, if it's a paid thing, like a paid there's a paywall to get to that content. I still don't think people are willing to pay for what you're finding on YouTube. Maybe if it's a more professionally long form, almost a TV show, but not really. I think people like YouTube because it's short and it's free and it's casual and it's not. I'm not sitting down and watching an hour special on TV.
Well, I mean, you got people doubling down billions of dollars into that. Look at Quibi.
I get ads for Quibi all the time. I have not ventured into anything that's on Quibi, but I've seen more ads since lockdown started than I still don't even really know what it is.
It's nothing's really over 10 minutes, really. It's like super short format, and you can't watch it on your TV. It is designed for your mobile or tablet.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually like, so they have some pretty cool stuff on Quibi where like Stephen King is doing a series where it's not available until it's after 9 p.m. So you have to watch it at night kind of thing. They're also like doing integrations where like the vertical video is actually different than the horizontal. So as you shift over, you get a different perspective. Then you shift back and it's the standard movie style. So they're doing some pretty innovative stuff. I don't think it's caught on just yet, but that's because the market's saturated with like, you know, I pay a subscription for Spotify, for Netflix, for Hulu, for
well,
Disney
that's what
Plus.
I think. That's what I think's interesting here is that we went from cable, where we were paying one subscription for all this stuff, and then people started cutting the cord. Oh, I don't need cable. I'm gonna go to Netflix because it has everything I need, and Hulu, and this and that because it's cheaper and it's all in one place, and I like that. And then all these networks realized, hey, wait a minute, we have the capital to do that. Netflix and Hulu are taking a big chunk of our revenue of what we could be making if we did this ourselves. And we have the money and the resources to do it. Let's do it ourselves. Okay. I mean, that's great and all, but now, like you said, I have to have my NBC subscription, my Netflix subscription, my Hulu subscription, my Disney Plus, my whatever, my Discovery Channel, my history, all this, and I'm paying more. So is it, I wonder, is it just some big scheme to push everybody back to cable? Because it's at this point, if I want all these networks, it's costing me more than if I just had a cable package.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this years ago when it first started happening, and I still think that my original theory is going to happen, which somebody's going to come in like a Viacom, Clear Channel, and they're going to say, hey, for X, and probably not even one of those companies, but one of those size companies is going to come in and say, hey, for $100 a month, you're going to get all of these streaming services. And somebody's going to do that, but then they're going to be watching their TV, and it's going to be so reliant on their internet and their 14-year-olds playing Xbox in the other room that they're going to be like, how can I fix this? Oh, coaxial cable. It's already ran. Back to cable.
I don't understand. Like it's just crazy to me that the whole big reason behind, I think, why Netflix and Hulu has such great thing overall, it was just the value. You could pay X dollars a month and get all this content, even before. And I mean, for all the young people out there was a time where Netflix didn't have originals, and there was also a time where Netflix sent you DVDs. Believe it or not, for the young people out there who didn't know that, there was.
For the young people out there that don't know, YouTube was originally a dating platform.
That's news to me.
So if you go back deep enough in like the timeline machine where you can go in and see like websites from their first like iterations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's funny.
I just think it's so the whole reason that I think Hulu took off is because it was the value add, the value proposition of what you got for what you inputted, what you paid. And I think as these as these other companies start to diversify, and I mean, you can't replace Hulu with Disney Plus. I love how I think Disney would love to think you could, but you're not getting all those shows. Like, sure, you're getting Star Wars and Marvel and Nat Geo and all this. You're getting more than just Disney, which is great, but I don't think the Disney umbrella is broad enough yet to where that's going to replace Netflix. So, I mean, they've put out crazy numbers in terms of, I think they're at 54 million users now, and their goal was to be between like 60 and 100 by 2024. So they've already almost reached the bottom end of their goal in like a quarter of their projected time. So I think that's insane. But is this going to keep is this going to keep marching on? Because I think, like you said, people are all of a sudden going to be like, wow, I'm paying $100 a month and I'm using all my bandwidth. What if I just switch to cable again?
I think Disney Plus is really going to just be anchored in the fact that, like, if you got a 5-year-old screaming that they want to watch Moana again,
Yep.
that's your only option.
Yeah.
$4.99 to shut that kid up. Oh, here's Moana.
I think Disney is also that at this point, if Disney hadn't come out with Disney Plus a year ago, they would be in a way worse situation than they are right now with everything going on. That has been the absolute saving grace. They're still losing billions of dollars. Don't get me wrong. They're still not in a great position. But in terms of like, it's like having a life preserver in the middle of the ocean in like a tornado or hurricane. But they at least have the life preserver. They don't have nothing. But I don't know if that's gonna be their if they're gonna switch over to that, because there's talks that, hey, they're gonna start releasing full length movies on Disney Plus instead of theaters because people aren't gonna want to go to theaters.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're gonna see that same revenue or even close to it.
Yeah, I mean, this was talked about in a theory class that I went to in UCLA in like 2004, where they were talking about how within 5 years, movie theaters would drop a movie in theater, or a production company would drop it in theaters, and then they would also drop it same time DVD. Within 5 years is what they were saying, and it never happened.
No.
But it got closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
Because of pirating and all this other stuff. I think that the streaming services is what's gonna force that, right? The people are gonna want to go to the movies because they want to have the popcorn experience.
Yeah,
it's gonna be throttled back considerably, and people are gonna start dropping it.
I mean, even if Disney Plus did a pay-per-view option for theaters that are in for movies that are in theaters now, just even if it's maybe the same as a single ticket, and sure, you're losing 75% of your revenue for a family of 4. But you're still making more than somebody just paying the $6 a month for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to be a transformation. I do have some late breaking news I've been sent from our producers that Mustang Alley at the Woodward Dream Cruise has officially been canceled for 2020 because the city because Woodward's, for people who don't know, Woodward Dream Cruise spans like 6 townships because it's a huge stretch of road, and each township is kind of different in how they run the event. And obviously it's in their town, so they're the jurisdiction that goes over it. So as of now, the event is still planned to happen. I mean, Woodward's a state sanctioned road. The cities can't close the road. I mean, I guess the state could come in and close the road and say, we're going to close down Woodward, but it's a major stretch of road. They're not just going to shut that down. But the city where Mustang Alley is, Ferndale, has said, we're not going to have the Dream Cruise. We're not going to have any vendors here. We're shutting our area down. So like you can drive through, but we're not going to have any events here. So is this going to be the beginning of the end for the event? Do you think they'll put it on without having that huge kind of emblematic thing? I mean, Ford's the title sponsor, so not to have Mustang Alley, I think, is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, people are gonna go out and cruise regardless because that's what they're doing.
I think so,
because they don't have car shows, so they're gonna possibly socially distance, stay in their cars. But Woodward is gonna be packed full of custom classic cars still for sure.
Have you? I'm assuming you went there at least during your time for Hot Rod.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool event. Clock, so I'm going to pop a beer.
You're good. Cheers.
Yeah, Woodward's going to happen from just a spectator and participant, like driver experience. Like sponsors aren't going to touch it, but people are going to go out into the cars and drive.
But what do you think that means for the show? Do you think that it means in terms of having vendors and sponsors and stuff? Do you think that could change how things are done in the future? Like, do you think this could change the event? You think it'll just be business as usual next time?
Yeah.
My big question is, and we've talked about this, but this is pretty much the reoccurring theme on the show, and I guess it's a good time, as we've kind of touched on events, to bring this up. Do you think, Jonny, do you think SEMA's going to happen?
I do.
You do?
I think SEMA's it's not going to be close to what SEMA looked like the previous years. I think people are going to be a lot more cautious. There's going to be obviously a ton less international people. There's going to be certain people that just aren't comfortable working the show and will just say, hey, like I hate SEMA and work in the booth, so I'm just going to use this as like an excuse that I'm not comfortable going to SEMA. But I think the show is going to happen. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think there's an opportunity for it to go back to its roots, which is going to be industry forward and not just a bunch of looky-loos. It's going to be the people that are dedicated to go there and do business. Because it's an industry trade show. Are going to be the people that show up.
Well, I think what's interesting is they said when we did our booth selection, they said if you don't attend this year, or if you attend this year, you will gain a year of seniority. But if you choose not to attend because of how it is this year, you will not lose all the seniority you've procured. They're not penalizing you. So what's to say all these senior companies, oh, we're not going to go this year, but they still have way more seniority than all these people who showed up. So like for us, for example, we get like a way better booth spot because all the bigger companies aren't there. But then next year SEMA's like, oh, it was nice of you to support us when, things were bad and you still showed up, but you can get pushed back again because all these other people are back.
So the way it works with the priority points or the seniority points is you are allowed to skip a year. You just can't skip 2. You lose all your priority points if you skip 2 years in a row.
Okay.
But you can skip a year, and this has been the case for years now. So like you still maintain those points and still accrue points. You just can't do 2 years in a row.
Interesting. That I didn't realize. I thought that was something they introduced specifically for this year because of what was going on.
No, I mean this year you're going to get a stellar spot for anybody that's not.
Oh, our spot was great. We chose our. So we did. I guess I feel like I talked about this already, but we really didn't because it was on a different podcast we were on. We talked about it that hasn't been published yet. So we go and do our booth selection like we do every year. Whatever, we sit down, me and Joe get in the conference room. We got our whiteboard there. We're looking at the map. Like, here's our first choice in this size, second choice. We got like the whole list. Get on the phone. The lady's like, all right, so what booth do you guys want? We give them like the one, like our reach goal, the one way up front. That's like a good size for us. We're like, yeah, I want this.
It's not going to happen.
We're like, this isn't going to happen, but we're going to just start where we want to be, like considerably farther up South Hall than lower South than we were last year. And we're like, yeah, we want this one. And she goes, let me look. She goes, oh yeah, that one's available. She goes, so I'll put you in for it. And Joe goes, wait, you said if it's available? She goes, no, that's available. I'll put you guys down. You'll see it updated in a few minutes. We're all like, what? Yeah, that one's, you guys are good to go. We're like, man, so we just wasted time making that whole list for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it almost would have been a benefit if they would have kept the original construction plans and shut down one of the halls for renovation this year.
Use that to your advantage, the timing or whatever.
That could have been really great, and it would have just kind of condensed the show probably a little bit more than like it's what they need.
It would have made it look bigger than it is.
And people have to walk less too.
True.
Yeah.
But they're still trying to work out the gold lot extension that they're doing.
Yeah, I think especially at least Central and North looked pretty full. Generally, there was a few small to medium-sized booths that were still vacant as of me looking this morning. Lower South Hall, entire back half pretty much empty still. And I think it's because there's a lot of foreign tire manufacturers that go into that lower South that I think, I mean, there still is. Like, looking at the map in terms of recognizable brand names, it's like us, Cooper, Fury, like very few, like kind of more like recognizable brand names to the average person. And then I think it's interesting that like, where's all these other companies? It's just all these like really small Chinese and Asian manufacturing companies. And I'm like, well, this is going to be, are those people even going to show up? Because they got their booth, but who knows if they're going to be even able to travel here. So is it going to be even smaller than it looks now?
I think this kind of a good opportunity for just companies in general, man, as far as placement, even for ourselves, like to move up to a spot we moved up to, like, that's freaking awesome. Like, that's never happened. That's kind of what I was joking with Colin today at work. I'm like, hey man, so the way the booth selection went down, I'm like, that's never how that works out actually. But I'm like, it's cool that it did to move up like that. And then who knows what next year looks like, maybe you end up moving back kind of towards where you're at or whatever. But like for smaller companies, this might be a good year for them, like to kind of have just, I don't know, like to be moved up so much further, but then they get spoiled.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some sort of advantage that they give you. Like if you're participating this year,
Yeah.
say for some reason COVID ramps back up in the fall, they have to cancel. They're probably going to be like, you can keep the space that you're currently in
Yeah.
for next year if you just keep the money here. But I mean, they're a nonprofit. You can go and look up how much they have in the bank.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they can weather the storm. If they skipped a year, SEMA is
Right.
literally designed so they can weather this kind of storm. Because they were already just building that wealth anyway. So
Well,
I
and
don't know
I
what it
think
is
a
right
lot
now,
of
but
people don't
it's gotta be like
realize
8 million.
a lot of people don't realize that SEMA is a lot more than just the SEMA show.
Yeah.
To the outside consumer or individual, people think, oh yeah, SEMA is just a big show. Like, I mean, they do way more to support the industry. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest revenue makers for them of what they do would be maybe the show, but it's also the biggest expense at the same time. So I think like you said, I think they have it to where I don't think SEMA's going to go away. I just think, like you said, if it's going to change it in some sort of permanent scope.
Yeah, I mean it's a 30 million plus line item for the association. They're gonna want it to happen. They're gonna wait till the very end before they end up having to pull the plug. Yeah. So I mean, I hope they take care of the people that are putting their money down this year. You know.
Yeah.
That's a great that's a great point what you said, Johnny. You're spot on, man. Because that's kind of how we felt, you know, like when we were meeting after meeting for picking the booth out and stuff like that. It's just like any event, right? Like that you're supporting them. It's like, hey, we were here for you, man. Like that's kind of, you know, like in tough times. Like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll see where SEMA goes, and I don't think unless there's a very pressing health reason, I don't think SEMA is going to voluntarily, without sort of outside regulation, come out and be like, all right, we're just canceling it because we think this. I think it's either going to be the convention center, the city, or the state says you guys can't do this. I don't think it's going to be SEMA to make that call.
Yeah, and I think your money's going to be safe regardless because
Yeah.
although they had like the 100% guaranteed, you pull your money out by September.
Right.
If they cancel because somebody else comes in, they're going to either give you the opportunity to be like, well, we'll let you keep the booth, you keep the money here, and you have that awesome booth for next year that you're locked in.
Right.
Or they're going to be like, you have 100% refund. I feel like there's no downside getting your booth this year.
Well, I think the big fear of people is going to be not necessarily losing the money and not going. I think the big fear is we're going to put in this money, this time, this personnel, get a booth built, go out there, and we're not going to see that value we've gotten in years past this year because of potentially lack of attendance or other things like that.
But you know, people are gonna be following on media, so like up your media game. That's your opportunity right there. Is like get an awesome, stellar media package out of it, and push that out to your fan base, right?
Because people want to know what's going on, right? So be eyes for them. But I kind of think that this kind of equivalates to like print media. You know, I always feel that it's something that maybe you might not see the value because you can't measure it. So some people, steer away from it. But it's just you have to have a presence. Like if there's anywhere to have a presence, there's certain places, and you just have to have a presence, or that's it. Like you're never going to be in the person's mindset, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's the Super Bowl of our industry, so it makes sense to go there to network, to establish face-to-face relationships with companies that were across the country that you would never get to like see as often. Like you can get every one of your clients is there, you know. You can and even in this year, 50% of your clients are there. If that's one trip that you have to take to see 50% of your clients, it's a money saver.
That's true. Yeah, I just hope it is 50% of the clients and not 25% of the clients, 10% of the clients. That's
I'd be happy to see 10% of the people that I love in this industry.
Right on, man. Because the time you can dedicate to them, like
that's true.
You can't. Yeah, dude. Like you can really like cater to them a lot more, listen to them a lot more. You know.
Maybe it's gonna be like the year of like the relaxed SEMA, where you're not as just run ragged as like every other year in the past. Maybe it will just be like the kind of like the chilled out SEMA because it's just so much smaller and not like, oh yeah, I was here for a week and I literally feel like my soul left my body because I walked 30,000 steps a day, and I feel just absolutely dead, and I have coronavirus now.
Yeah. If I don't have to sprint from one hall to the next, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I put more steps on at SEMA than I do any other ever.
And not just like the show itself, but like even a lot of the SEMA education classes. Like when I was younger and went to the show, like I used to try to go to so many classes, as many as possible, you know. And Jonny had one this last year, and I'm like, yeah, go check it out. And it's hard to leave the booth, you know, because people come up to you, so you gotta, you know, you want to talk to them, don't want to be disrespectful. So I get there like a few minutes late. I'll be okay. People, this room is just stuff. It's filled to the gills, man. Like you can barely even get to the doors, and the people outside that usually scan your badge are just like, I don't know what to do. Just, you know,
it was the first time I think anybody ever threatened to call the fire marshal.
Yeah.
Or a SEMA education panel, which I'm damn proud of. And most of I mean, I got to give it up to the panel. They didn't come to see me. They came to see Brian Scotto. They came to see John Pulley. They came to see especially Jesse James. I mean, there's people there to see Jesse James an hour before. I got there to start setting up and everything, and like there's people waiting in line. I'm like, hey guys, like, what are you guys waiting in line for? And they didn't know who I was or that I was like the host of the event that I put together. So like, oh, we're just waiting for Jesse. So I was like, all right. And Jesse James. So I got to give a shout out to Jared Chavez, my boy, who was like, I had a fourth spot and was like, hey, if I was going to throw a Hail Mary, like who should I invite to be on the panel? And he's like, Jesse James, like Monster Garage is coming back. Just see. So I like emailed him through his website, and he was like one of the most responsive. I know Brian Scotto personally, and he would not like respond as quickly as Jesse James, who was, hell yeah, I'm ready to do this. This is awesome. So big shout out to Jesse James for like, you know, jumping in on that when they gave me like a tiny room. So this year they gave me a big room. So this year, like I got to get my big boy pants on, and I'm going to do another one. This year it's not going to be about, well, what was this last year was, so I did one 2-3 years ago, I guess, on creating profitable content. Brian Scotto was part of that as well. Had like Larry Chen. That was a great one. And then this last year, and then this year I'm doing Path to Automotive Celebrity. So I'm going to get some automotive celebrities on there, and they're just going to, everybody from like a YouTube celebrity to a builder that, you know, built up his shop and spent years just building cars until he got his, you know, Discovery Channel show. I'm going to have that aspect too, but basically be able to tell people like, you know, this is what these celebrities did to get from like point A to automotive celebrity. So I'm excited about that one, because I think there's a lot of people that want to know how to like be a YouTube automotive celebrity or get their own TV show, right? Or just even get on a TV show for automotive. So I think it's going to be a pretty cool one.
I'll pencil it in as I'll speak at that. My great podcasting. I'll just put that here on my calendar. We'll tell everybody how I became this great podcaster in 6 episodes or less.
7 days, 6 second abs. No, but kind of along those lines. Sorry. I think that just speaks well of like your marketing, how you've always managed to like stay at the tip of things and kind of push it forward, you know, and how you always end up in positions of and like what Colin was saying about YouTubers, for example, earlier. I've been in so many SEMA education classes, and there was one of them where that's what it was. It was five like really top notch YouTubers, and probably the best in off-roading, this and that. And I was able to get there late and find a seat, no problem. Yours, I got there like 2 minutes late, maybe, man, 2 minutes late, and I've never seen that in my life, you know. It was just like, I think I even did a Snapchat. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, I guess I'll just go back to my booth and work, because obviously this all right, whatever, man. And everyone's just looking at each other like, are you gonna move? Are you gonna move? It's like, all right,
Joe.
So what I'm hearing here is we need to get, in order to take Tire Talk to the next level, we have to get Brian Scotto on here, and we won't get enough people. We'll pack the Zoom call. We'll get Brian Scotto and Jesse James in here, and we'll fill out the entire Facebook chat room, is what I'm hearing.
Jesse James is the key, because Brian Scotto was on my 2017 panel, and we didn't fill the room exactly, but Jesse James, man, people love that guy, man. I mean, I love the guy. He is kind of a dick. He was kind of a dick to me too, but you know what? I love that.
That's authentic.
On a disc assessment, I'm a high D. I get it.
Well, I think I'd rather have somebody be, crappy to me, but be genuine. I don't want you to put on a show for me. Don't do that on my account. I'm not that important. Yeah, I want to see who you are.
Yeah, no, Jesse brought some pretty awesome value, and I mean I respect the hell out of that guy, right? So props to him.
So the other big project that people might know you from is Wheelwell. If you want to talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Wheelwell brought me up to San Francisco. That was I left the whole like hot rod scene of Southern California, go up to San Francisco, where everybody thinks that we're not even going to be driving our cars in the next year, which I don't blame them for thinking that. They see self-driving cars on the road, but if you live in St. Louis, Missouri, you don't give a shit about a self-driving car. If you live in the outskirts of a town, you want to drive your '69 Camaro and you want to go balls out. So it was a very funny experiment for me. Their social media platform that were kind of finding their niche in being able to sell parts as well. Technology amazing. So I mean, imagine being able to like share your car and everybody can see every part on your car, and you're like, I love that guy's rims, I'm gonna go buy those rims. And you're like one click away from like just clicking the picture of his rims to go and buy the part. So stellar team up there. I mean, I have some best friends that I worked with up there now. Really cool platform.
Yeah, I mean my car is on Wheelwell, shameless plug. So if you want to go check that out, you go find that. But I think it is interesting that, as far as I'm aware, Wheelwell was the first to do that, where it's breaking it down specifically by like more than just like a Facebook post or a forum post. Like, hey, we're going to give you this. You could break down by part, break it down by category, and specifically link to certain parts, and kind of more in depth. Like, you see a car, hey, that's sweet, but I have no idea what that part is, and I am trying to do a reverse Google image search and I can't find it, and the guy doesn't read this form anymore, and now I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I think recently I've seen a few other companies start to come on the scene and start to do that. But as far as I can tell, I think Wheelwell's still one of the better executed of them. So
yeah, well, they literally like their CTO built the back end of Twitter. He built like Nextdoor. So they have like the team out of San Francisco that's going to do it. Holly has My Garage, and they spun that up really quickly to kind of be their version of that. But they don't have the talent to like execute. They don't have the talent to execute like a really meaty version of it. Like Wheelwell is like very in depth, and B, Wheelwell has the third party endorsement, right? So a brand, I don't mean to call out Holly because I love their brand.
Yeah.
But you can't really like, you need that third party endorsement side. Otherwise, you're the guy walking into the room like, I'm badass. Look at me. I'm super fucking cool. Like, you don't want to be that guy. You want to be the Holly being recommended from Wheelwell. Like, you want everybody on Wheelwell to be repping Holly. So there's this third party endorsement being like, Holly is the man. Like, you need to go buy their parts. So that's what they were creating at Wheelwell, and that other people aren't going to be able to capture that lightning,
And I think you're kind of limited if you're definitely a manufacturer, an OEM, like whether it's Holly or some other Jeep or a actual you're limiting it to who can be on your platform. Even if you say it's open to all, I mean, people who aren't running Holly are far less likely to go utilize your platform than somebody who is.
That's very true.
I think one really nice thing about Wheelwell is just very organized, and the flow of it. It's just very fluid. It's nice. It's easy. And it's interesting because when I told Colin that you're going to be on the show and stuff, I was like, oh, yeah, Jonny's worked there. He's been with them. And, Colin looked at me like, whoa, I didn't know that. Like, so that's interesting.
And then Joe went on LinkedIn. He goes, oh, wait, he's not there anymore.
Yeah, no, it's a cool platform. I learned a lot from those guys. I mean, they're some of the smartest people I've ever met. So, and even just from the VC world, like the VC backed like tech companies of San Francisco is a very interesting ecosphere, So like that was a huge attraction to me. I grew up in Northern California, so it was nice to go and kind of be back up in Northern California. There's weather up there as opposed to Southern California, which is awesome. But I also got to kind of learn that VC atmosphere, what they look for, how people do raise money, the value of raising money and the non-value of raising money from VC capitalists. So there's huge, advantages and disadvantages. Like some people think like, oh man, these people are going to give me $3 million for 25% of my company. Like this is the best thing ever. Is it?
Yeah.
Give and take, right?
So I guess we've talked about everything you've done in the past. So what are you doing now? What is the here and now in the world of Jonny Mill?
So probably the most exciting part of my career is really I'm going to learn from James Lawrence. So James, he owns Power Auto Media, Speed Video, and Alloy Studios. He's the incoming chairman of the board for SEMA, one of the smartest guys I know. And, he's got a company that weathered the storm, like a media company in the automotive space that weathered the storm through the recession, has always been profitable. And he's always been that like honest, genuine, kind, like businessman. So I'm learning a ton about emotional intelligence from him just on a personal level. He's going to be a super valuable mentor to be working so closely with. So that's huge for me right there on a personal level. And then like we're doing cool ass shit. I mean, we're doing pay-per-views with YouTube celebrities. Where Alloy Studios is really stepping up their game and developing like really unique content packages for white label for manufacturers that need like, for example, like this whole coronavirus thing hit. It was something we were already spinning up when I was coming on board, which is like social packages. So you shoot one video, we're creating like a whole line of a holistic package for you to be able to, here's our About Us video, but here's like 7 stories that cut down features and benefits from the products that were in that About Us video. And here's a cinematograph with like a really stylized piece of content that you can deliver. Here's a 6-second pre-roll that goes with it as well, that you can put on YouTube that's unskippable. So we're giving these packages together, especially for like our past clients with coronavirus. Like we had to have like a 2.5-3 week pause of any principal production. So all of our clients that already had raw footage that we shot, we were able to like build these awesome packages for those clients that they could then go and use to drive e-commerce. Because vertical stores, the ability to swipe up to the product, the point of purchase is huge, right? So if you have a really sexy, stylized, even advertisement that is in the 9:16 format, when somebody's scrolling through Jeeps and like they see oh, I love that Jeep. I love that. Oh, look at those knobby tires. And the next thing that they hit is an Atturo Tire, stylized, like awesome 15-second vertical story ad that just seems organic because that's what they were looking at. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh shit, I'm gonna swipe up. I like those tires. I like the blade on them, blah, blah, blah. They can go and right to the product page and learn about the product, right? Not that you guys have done that with us, but I'm just using you guys as an example because I'm here. I don't want to promote anybody else.
Thank you for that.
So yeah, like it's been really cool. I mean, like working with like Cletus McFarland too recently and doing projects with him has been awesome.
He's doing a lot of cool stuff down there with the racetrack and all that. He's got big plans.
Yeah. So, we're working with him on a lot of cool pay-per-view projects, even despite the COVID thing. So like the last one we had to shoot with 3 people and use social distancing. So that was super unique. That guy, I mean, I can't speak highly enough about Cletus McFarland. That guy, like he was on my radar for quite a long time. Wheelwell, I was reaching out to him, trying to get him engaged with us there. So I knew what he was all about, but like working closely with him, that guy values his audience more than any dollar amount, anything else that he does, which is so rare and pure and genuine. So yeah. Guy's amazing. Can't speak highly enough about that guy. And then Alloy is in general, we're doing a lot of cool, like, projects for OTT and streaming services right now. A lot of the stuff that you see coming out, like you don't even know, but it's us, which is kind of fun. I'm always the guy in the background pulling the strings, which I'm totally happy about. I don't want to be in front of the camera. I want to be that guy that you're like, is that Jonny in the background of that video? It's like, yeah, I was there pulling my strings.
You don't want to do another bank robbery video?
Like that's why I did the bank robbery video. I was
in the mask.
Yeah, man. Like I love that. Like that's the kind of stuff I live for. I want to be that guy.
You just want to be the constant just cameo. You want to be like the Stan Lee of the automotive world and just make cameos and videos.
Kinda. I don't even need the cameo part. Like there's there's videos that like Larry Chen has done with Hoonigan where it's like you see me in the kind of super distant background. It's just because I helped set that video up, and that's the stuff I'm proud of. Is like being able to be off camera and really setting up meaningful things that are great for the client and great for the audience, and great for the participants that are participating in the video too. Like that's what I geek out on.
And I think that speaks pretty highly of you, that you, and it shows that you truly do something you enjoy, and you enjoy it for doing it. You don't do it for some sort of recognition necessarily. Maybe recognition in a different way, but you don't do it for recognition of, hey, I'm just going to plaster all these videos of me all over social media, and hey, everyone, look at what I'm doing. Look how cool like. You're doing it because you can sit back and be like, yeah, I made that. And I know that, and I appreciate that, but it's not like, I don't have to have my face plastered all over the company, all over the place.
Exactly. And honestly, the most like treasured stuff that like I even would post, that I would like feel inclined to post, is so private to me, because it's like my family stuff right now.
Yeah.
Like being able to like see my kids do certain things, and it's the easiest task any human would do, but he's doing it for the first time. Like that's what I live for, like that's the most mundane things to other people are like the most exciting things that are happening to me right now. And it's cool to be in that kind of stage of your life where it's like, I don't need to be in the limelight. I don't want the accolades. I just want to be pulling the strings, making the money, and supporting my family, and being able to have the time to like watch a 1 and 3 year old like learn something new, So I'm super, super grateful for that part of my life.
And those are some pretty good photoshops, man, or photos, with you and the young ones.
Yeah. And every once in a while, I'll do a funny Photoshop where it looks like my 2-year-old's, doing something incredibly dangerous when he was safe the entire time. My grandmother definitely was like, I'm calling CPA right now, or Child Protective Services, CPS.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to jail because you just stuck your kid in the middle of a motor and like walked away. Like, no, Grandma, it's called Photoshop. Company called Adobe. It's totally safe.
Yeah, we were changing up some stuff on our Creative Cloud today in our Adobe. I think it's wild to me, and I saw a video about this on the topic of like Adobe and Photoshop just briefly. I think it's wild to me how Adobe has managed to jump into the subscription model and just make all these content creators just infinitely pay into their pocket. Like, I see some of these like just like YouTube channels with like medium to large operations, and they're like, yeah, I pay like 10 grand a year to Adobe because I need all these licensings for my editing teams. I'm like, holy crap, that's just insane that because people, it's a perfect example of somewhere there's not a ton of other competition.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the days when I had friends that had pirated software from Adobe.
Acquired.
That like they had to like hack their thing to make it not call the mothership, and that's how they were getting around it. And they're probably still to this day
using that copy,
using CS5 and not the cloud service. But you know what? Like, kudos to Adobe. Like, everything is going to a subscription service. Every medium that's in there is going that way, and it's pretty soon you're just going to be like a slave to the subscription.
I just wonder what's going to be what's the evolution of the subscription. Like, what's the next step after that? Because I mean, we've moved from like, going to the movie theater, buying DVDs, subscription. Like, what's the next thing?
When you figure that out, you better tell me.
Yeah.
So I can make millions of dollars.
I was hoping I was going to get out of you that you knew, and I was going to get the trade secret.
I have some ideas, but they're still being fleshed out.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, because I don't think the subscription thing is here for the long haul. Maybe in the immediate long haul, but I think there'll be something that conquers it more than maybe it's just all the brain implants that Bill Gates is going to give us that'll have all the Microsoft services pre-installed.
It depends on people's pocketbook, right? Like, if I think like we're going back to like the OTT and streaming services, like Crackle is free with ads.
Yep. And
people are love that, because we're, as a culture, we're kind of cheap. I don't want to spend money. Like, serve me an ad, that's fine. Like,
it's like
I'll
YouTube
watch 13
too,
ads in like 2 minutes. Just give me the content for free. So I think there's going to be a big shift back to that. and advertising will still end up being a very prominent point of that. So many people are worrying about, like, especially with COVID, like advertising dollars are the first thing that get cut.
Yep.
And people are thinking that's going to be
Yeah.
a permanent thing. That's not going to be. You can't stop advertising.
Well, especially in
not gonna
terms
be
of
permanent.
advertising and digital media, that's the first thing you cut because of coronavirus, you got to reassess how your marketing strategy. That's where you should be putting more of your money in right now, because everybody's sitting in front of a screen all day. You should
I
be
will
putting.
preach it over and over and over again that this coronavirus is an opportunity. The big guys are going to get knocked sideways and not sure where they're fitting in, and the smaller guys are going to be hibernating and trying to, like, retain their funds. But it creates such an amazing opportunity for mid-sized companies that maybe aren't on the top two of their brands, like in their vertical, to make two steps. You can win a chess champion if you can make two steps in one turn before they can.
Yep.
That's all it takes. Is two steps, two moves.
It's about having the means to do it, but also not having the bureaucracy, like you said, to not be able to steer the ship. If you can have the flexible capital and the flexible team to be able to quickly pivot where you're at right now, you can be extremely successful. But if you're have no money because you're such a small organization, but all the flexibility in the world, that's not going to get you anything because you have no ad dollars. Or B, you're a giant corporation, but those dollars take months to move.
Yep. I mean, everybody's pushing to e-commerce all of a sudden super quickly. That's what I said. Like, the social packages that we're creating at Alloy for brands do just that. Like, they focus right into the e-commerce platform and drive traffic there and make money. I mean, we were talking about just the real estate market before we hopped on live, right?
Yep.
I mean, I'm gonna buy a house in the next 2 months because people are freaking out a little bit. I don't think the housing market's going to crash, and I'm a long-term kind of investor when it comes to this. So I'm going to capitalize. I'm going to get super low rates. I'm going to get a house for $30,000 less than it was going to go for. But the housing market, you got to know the market. The housing market bubbled up in 2008 because too many people were pulling money out on refinance, and everybody went upside down on their loans. That's what killed the market then. I don't think the housing market's going to completely crash, and especially in the area that I'm going to buy. Like, it's a up and coming area. I'm not going to buy in New York.
Yeah, not gonna buy in New York. Not gonna buy in Chicago. Not gonna buy in any
on
of
the
these.
outskirts where people are like, "Oh, I can work remote now. I'm going to go look for a house that's affordable an hour outside of the city."
Yeah,
so
I think you'll see a lot more people moving. And this is what we talked a little bit about before the show, being more mobile in terms of whether or not you want to get into the politics of it in terms of policy that different governors or whatever are putting in place. I think people are just to be like, the big city life's not for me anymore. It's not worth it. Me living in an apartment building with 5, 6, 7, 800, 1,000 other people. It's just it's not worth it for me to, with any chance of whether it's coronavirus or something else. It's not worth that risk for me anymore, when I could move out into the suburbs or move somewhere else across the country.
100%.
So we've talked about a lot of different things you've done and different people you've worked with. Who would you say is your biggest maybe inspiration or role model within the industry?
It's a big question. I've always kind of prided myself on having like a shifting inspiration. I grew up without a dad, so like the whole Kill Bill thing, like you end up collecting father figures, right? So, in my time at Hot Rod and right before Hot Rod, like me wanting to go into more of a publisher role, it was Peterson. Like, Peterson and before that was a guy like Benjamin Franklin, who was a publisher and an inventor, who was kind of a Renaissance man that did a lot of different things. I really like to think of myself as kind of a philosopher, Renaissance man, where I've invented products, I've done publishing, I've been a lot of different careers, but it's also changed, who the top dog was in my mind many times. And if I was going to say like who it is right now, it's the person I probably think about most when I'm thinking about like inspiration and career is Jesse Combs.
Yep.
Jesse was a very close friend of mine. we lived a block away from each other in Long Beach for years. I would go and hang out with her. Any career decision I made over the last 4 or 5 years was like not made without talking to Jessie. She was my big sister. And I think about her more than anybody. If I had to make a career decision, if I make anything automotive, even life, like she lived life so to the fullest, to the last second, that like that is so inspiring to me. Like I'm not gonna go out and jump in a jet vehicle like she is, because my priorities are slightly shifted and I have kids and stuff. But like I wanna feel like I would live my life like that. So that's what inspires me. I want to go to that. I want to reach for the stars and land on the moon. So Jessie Combs, I do it for Jessie.
And not just it's a funny story, man. So King of the Hammers last year, actually, it was probably one of the first times I had like a few seconds with her, and she actually mentioned you. And I thought it was pretty funny because I was like, "Yeah, Jonny Mill, like, I know him so and so." And he's like, "Yeah, the Photoshop and this and that, and that's why I thought it was pretty funny, man. But yeah, so then to see, and I remember at one of the launch pads, actually, you were there and she was there, and you guys were talking about like going faster, always pushing the limits and stuff and whatnot, man.
Yeah, I mean, she, regardless of race, of gender, of anything, she transcended inspiration to everybody I know. Everybody I know that came into contact with that woman, like, came away a better person for it. And 100%, like, that's probably like if I'm laying in bed at night trying to think of a solution to a problem, I think about her.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said about having shifting role models too. I mean, I guess it's a good point that you have to, I guess, think about what you're doing, and it is a good point that people's role models do change depending on, especially how you've said you've gone through so many different, I guess, phases in your career. It's not going to be one person that you look up to, but I think it's a good example, like, to talk about Jessie Combs, how she's done so much, but also like is still a very genuine, down to earth person who would, like you said, didn't care who you were, but would just take time to, like Joe said, take time to have a conversation with you.
She was one of the most special people that our industry lost. Absolutely.
And I think the sad thing about that is, is the fact that a lot of people don't understand or don't realize, they don't see the other half of Jessie besides the TV shows, the social media. They don't see that other kind of side of the industry person, the mentor, that sort of thing that people within the industry got to see.
100%. I mean, I was with her in Albert in 2000. I want to say 16, maybe it was 17, when she crashed the first time, the American Eagle. The parachute didn't deploy. She went into the pucker bushes. She went into the pucker bushes, like, I want to say 1,000 feet before the pucker bushes. She was going 400 miles per hour. Like, she told all of us that were standing there when we sprinted up to her, like, the hand of God came down and stopped that vehicle. Because if you're heading towards the pucker bushes at 400 miles per hour, you're going to hit it at least 300, and that's going to send you into a plane crash. Because that's what she was driving, is a jet plane. And she survived that. And I mean, pictures. I look at pictures from that day of like the rut of like how the electronic or magnetic brakes like engage because the parachute didn't come and like dug into the dirt perfectly, and like there's a rut of dirt from it digging in, and she was standing at the end of it. And that picture to me is like probably the most significant picture I've ever taken of a human being.
That's on your Instagram, I believe, isn't it? Is that the one we're talking about? That's such a nice picture.
Yeah. No, she I can't say enough good things about that woman. She was my big sister. She guided me through a lot of decisions from personal to career, and I don't talk about her often. Like, I mean, it's it's a weird subject, like
Yeah.
especially with her the last boyfriend she had and stuff too. Like I want to be very respectful of like who who should own the mourning and the gratefulness of people that knew her. Like it's definitely not me. It's her mom. It's Terry. It's even past people that she connected with, more significantly than me. She was a deep friend and a big sister to me, but man, like I can't imagine, what her mom went through. She was there in 2016, so she saw that whole thing go down and saw how frantic she was. I mean, it's unfathomable as a father to think about having to lose, even in under the circumstances, because she went out like we all hope we could go out, doing exactly what you love.
Truly what you love. Truly it truly is the quote, if one day speed kills me, don't cry because I was smiling.
Yep.
Because she was doing exactly what she loved up until the very end.
100%.
Fastest woman on four wheels, man.
So I guess to transition, Jonny, if you were to be a role model for somebody, what advice would you give to young people looking to get into the industry, people looking to, whether it's career wise, personal wise, what is notable advice you would give to younger people?
So I guess I would just pass on a piece of advice that, you should never name drop. But Richard Petty once told me,
Okay.
if you're going to get into this industry, you need to jump in with both feet.
Yep.
It's the only way you'll succeed. So if you're going to get into the automotive industry, you need to go to events. You need to connect with people on a face-to-face basis. Like this is a grassroots industry. If you're getting into this industry, you have to pay your dues a little bit. It's a word of mouth industry. If you just like pop onto the scene and, people at SEMA used to call me Mr. Neon Sign because they thought I walked around with like a neon sign pointing to myself, which I'll cherish that till the day I die. Because if nobody's going to promote yourself as much as you're going to promote yourself, that's another piece of advice I would give people. But I mean, if you're looking to get in the automotive industry, if you love cars, there's so many things to do. You can be good at numbers and be a financial advisor. You can if you want to learn how to code, Ford, GM, all the big names have coding platforms. Every car is a computer now. So basically anything that you like want to do for your career, you can attach to the automotive industry and be able to build your network, communicate with people that have the same interests as you. Learn about parts that you're going to put on your build, whether you're a Jeep guy or a hot rod guy or a super guy. So I think that's a key thing too. Is like, no matter what career path you want to take, the automotive industry has an option for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's kind of, me and Joe have gone to at least this year. We visited one school that we were doing the SEMA Education student builds with, and I think it's kind of, and this is to no fault of anybody's, but how students don't realize that there's more to the automotive industry and more options than just being a mechanic, working in a repair shop. I'm like, if you want to do that, great, but don't aspire to be a mechanic. Aspire to own that repair shop. Aspire to start your own business, own that performance shop, own that upfitting company. Aspire to fabricate parts. Like if that's what you want to do, great, but there's way more than just, I'm going to turn wrenches the rest of my life.
100%. I think I equivalent it to a lot of like the restaurant industry, right? Like people that want to be chefs. There's a lot of people that fell into being a cook, but you can be a chef. You can own your own restaurant. You can be a private chef for celebrities. I mean, like there's so many different options to go through that field. But like a mechanic shop is in a trade school like that. Even like Le Cordon Bleu, I compare to like Lincoln Tech. Like it's a very similar thing. It's mostly a lot of, especially at the lower levels, as like people that are kind of lost, don't know what to do, but they're like, I can turn a wrench,
Something,
or I can cook a good egg,
Yeah.
like, and then they go in. But I will say, like, you absolutely need oxes and foxes. I don't ever want to make an In-N-Out burger myself.
Yeah.
I really want somebody to want to make an In-N-Out burger because I want to go there and eat it. So like I'm incredibly grateful for the people that don't have crazy aspirations of being a rock star in their industry.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having a super solid job, living a great life, and being happy at flipping burgers. Totally an honorable thing to do.
Oh, and yeah, and I'm not. That wasn't my bash on turning a wrench.
I wasn't saying it is.
Yeah, no, but I just think it's people. And if you look at all your options, and that's what you come down to, is you want to flip a burger, you want to turn a wrench, you want to do whatever. That's great, but be aware, make an informed decision, and look at all the choices you have. Because I feel like people think, oh, cars, I'm going to be a mechanic. Well, no, like you could do way more with that than just a technical degree, just working on cars, just doing something like that. You can go into sales, into marketing, into finance, into technology, all those things you said within the automotive industry, and do cool stuff in engineering. All this stuff all plays. This industry is huge. It's one of the biggest industries out there. So I think people need to understand that you can still follow your passion, but that doesn't mean you need to be, turning a wrench and getting greasy every day.
Just kind of touch on technology before we get too much further from that. I believe it was SEMA actually that put a report out as far as like computer chips and stuff like that, and they ran out of places to use them, so they started finding what's the next best place is vehicles, and that's where you start seeing a lot more of like electronics being used in them and whatnot. And I think that's just, you'll start seeing more and more of that, but that's like kind of what Jonny was saying. Like, yeah, vehicles are definitely the next place where they can expose that. Cause I mean, computers and all that kind of reach their, their points and their limits or whatnot.
100%.
I think telematics is going to explode in the next year, for better or for worse, in vehicles. And I think it'll be interesting, especially as you see more and more technology. I mean, there's already various trade associations going after these, like, so who owns all that data? I mean, their data that these vehicles are collecting. I mean, some of these cars know how much you weigh sitting in the seat because of all the sensors they have in the seat. So do you want Ford? Do you want GM? Do you want FCA to know how much you weigh? And then they can know who's driving once they gather all the people who weigh certain amounts in your family and where they put the seat. Oh, this is your dad. Oh, this is your mom. Oh, this is your little sister. They know who's driving that car because they weigh this amount. They get in, they grab the steering wheel, they turn the radio to this station, and they can just. So what's to say they're not going to sell that to advertisers?
I think it's kind of cool. I guess you're right. Like in for example, I have a Toyota too, and in the manual it tells you, like, it has a box that it can tell if you've pressed a brake, if you've done this or that, and in case of an accident, like, that actually can be used against you. I'm like, well, that kind of sucks. Like, on my own.
You look at a company like Waze, who, if I was Waze, I'd be buying that data. Like, if I want to know, like, for lack of a better example, like, I want to know if there's someone that is a little heavier set in the driver's seat. Maybe I want to deliver an ad for Burger King.
Yep.
Yeah. Talk about specific target marketing.
even Facebook. The other day, me and my buddy were private messaging on Facebook, and he's like, "Yeah, I gotta leave my cars on my Jeep on jack stands for a few days because I'm waiting for my wheels and tires to come in." Not 5 minutes later, does he get an ad on Facebook that literally says, "Don't leave your car on jack stands. Buy a wheel and tire package today."
They're always listening.
It's insane. It's scary once you start looking and finding the pattern. It's scary how much these manufacturers know about you, and it's just, where is this data? Who's has this data, securing it? And like, there was this big thing, and again, who owns it? Like Tesla, some guy sold a used Tesla. It was a couple months ago, and Tesla disabled the autopilot on it because the guy who now owns it didn't pay the $5,000 for the autopilot, so he wasn't licensed to use it.
So that goes back to the whole John Deere thing that happened a few years ago, where John Deere only licenses their software. So, or like, basically you don't own the software that's in your tractor. So it created this whole wave of like, what if car manufacturers do that? And like, you don't own your car really, because you don't own the software. It's only licensed, and they could take the software away at any moment. So it's kind of crazy. 1 second. I got a shout out to my mom, who's like blowing up my phone saying that it's hot in the garage. Yeah, I'm a little sweaty. Right, Mom? Atturo Tires did not provide a makeup artist to powder me. You need to take up that gripe with them.
I don't even get a makeup artist to powder me, and I wish that'd be high class if we could get that. I mean, I don't even get a professional camera. We're shooting on the old Logitech over here. Like,
I got some gunpowder like right here. That I could
Nice.
but I would look.
you like the football paint under your eyes to keep the
Exactly.
glare down.
You be like Ernest. Yeah.
So what would be of all the things you've done? What's your favorite kind of, I guess, event or thing to travel to outside of SEMA? Because that's an easy kind of thing to answer, as that's just it's a kind of above everything else. But what's a very memorable event or industry thing you've done?
I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in the industry. So, personally, I love just traveling like to clients and seeing their facilities. I geek out on like, there's machines in the background. I geek out on seeing like the operations of like a K&N where everything's automated. They have tons of CNC machines, like that stuff. I love traveling to that. Event wise, like totally gonna shout out to Jim Lau and Formula Drift, Brian Sage
Yeah.
and Brian Alford. They put on an amazing event every single time. Grid Life, haven't been to Grid Life, but I want to go. It seems like an awesome event.
Yeah.
Other events that like are on my radar that I want to go to are like Rednecks and Paychecks. Seems like a weird, crazy ass event. Like I would love to do that. And I didn't get to visit the Freedom Factory, Cletus's new place. This last one, we literally produced the event from remotely, which was a nightmare. But we're doing another one in June, and it'll be announced soon. And I can't wait to see what he's doing there. I mean, the guy is pouring every cent that he owns into that event facility. So like, it's not open to the public yet, but he just built like the second largest burnout pad in America.
Yep.
I mean, he's going full fledged. So like, I look forward to being able to like go there and see what he's done.
Yeah, I think I've been following that very casually, personally, his undertakings there, and that is absolutely insane what he's doing, and just the amount of time, effort, and dedication to watch really just one man and a small team of what's just friends put into a place like that and make it. I mean, that's the dream for everybody who's into cars. Like, it's like how regular guys are like, yeah, when I get older, I'm going to buy a bar. No, car guys are like, I'm going to buy a racetrack with a bar because that's just better. So I think it's awesome to see some guy actually go out and be like, you know what, I'm actually going to buy a racetrack and do it right.
And he did it for the right reasons. And the guy has some pretty smart advisors around him. Like one of his closest advisors was like a previous owner of Bradenton Motorsports Park. So like he's got some super smart people that are in his ear as well, that he's smart enough to surround himself with. So like I'm excited for anything that guy touches. Like he's on a streak, man, a hot streak.
What I think is just interesting is that the persona he's created is just very much the opposite of like who he actually is. Like it's not because he is kind of just that kind of goofy, dorky kind of person, but he's not like an idiot. Like people think like, especially his original persona, like he's just some redneck hick. Like, I got this car. I'm Cletus McFarland. You're watching Cletus McFarland YouTube. Like that's not, it's very much just a persona. And I think it's funny that people originally thought like, oh, this guy's just like some idiot. He's just doing like a shtick on YouTube, but like he's actually a very smart, put together person who has a plan.
I'm amazed how many people don't know his real name's Garrett.
Yeah.
So that's just funny to me. Like, but 100%, you hit the nail on the head. Like the guy's super smart outside of what his online persona is. And I mean, how fun is it to have an alter ego, right? And you're going to see over the years, they're going to bleed together a little bit.
They already are. He's got the mullet going. It's already starting to bleed together.
Yeah, he's getting more and more Florida man as the days go by.
Just wait. One of these days, his little gator is going to come on his track there, and then he's going to peak Florida man, a picture of him holding the alligator in the middle of his track or something.
It'll be the mascot. It'll be like the cat that you have at the shop, only it's like the gator that's in the infield,
So what would you say is the most notable or favorite memory of your career, your time in the industry?
Like, that's a super hard one.
I'm throwing out the hard ones. This isn't an easy show.
Like, I already mentioned I got to hang out with Chris Kirsting
Yep.
for 3 hours in my 35. Like Juan from SEMA recently asked this question, actually, like, what's your most notable SEMA moment on the media channel for SEMA? And like, that stands out as one of the biggest defining moments in my career was 2013 after I won Launchpad. Gene Winfield like makes a point to come to my booth and congratulate me. And I mean, this guy made the Blade Runner vehicles. Like, he's one of the most, he's like up there with George Barris, who, you know, is another super icon that has I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple times before he passed away. And like it's those moments where like the greats of the industry like acknowledge you, that really stick out in your brain of like, wow, like I am on the right path. I am making the right moves, right? But all the way down to even like the little stuff, like being able to like be a mentor for somebody else who's like entering the industry is a defining moment. You know, when somebody comes to you for advice, a career advice, or, you know, shit, even vehicle like buying advice, like it's special, right? Like, somebody was doing something important to themselves and like thought of you and being like, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to ask this person what they think. Like, those are special moments too that like are hard to define.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, you talk about getting recognition from people big in the industry. And I think what a lot of people, we've talked about this previously on the show, and I think people have to understand, when you go to an event like SEMA, when you travel to these industry events and you start to meet people, if you see somebody who you see as a role model, go up and talk to them. Chances are they're going to give you 5 minutes of their time. They're busy, but the majority of these people, like we talked about in SEMA at these industry events, want to help other people. And maybe you'll find the one person who's not like that, or they're busy or whatever, but you're never going to know unless you go up and talk to somebody. And I think by and large, everybody in the industry is very helpful. So I think while you should still look at those people as role models, my advice to younger people going to SEMA is you shouldn't hold them as high of on a pedestal as you think, because that's not totally out of reach for you to be there or to work with that person or talk with that person. You may think it is, but it's just the industry is so tight knit and so helpful that I think people need to realize that that's not some sort of crazy, outlandish thing.
Absolutely. I think that's what kind of defines our industry, right? Like, that's the reason why like people aren't sneaking into a medical convention and trying to like get a badge to a medical convention to go see the new products. Like our industry is stands above a lot of like even more more valuable industries to the world, right? Like, a medical industry is very valuable. Like, they save lives. We don't save any lives, but nobody's like I said, sneaking into a medical convention. But the SEMA, they're like, I need to go to SEMA. I will break all the rules to go there. Like, it's pretty special, you know. And once you get there, yeah, like, you get to be able to rub shoulders with some icons who are like, hey, you're just like me, you know. Like, I started right where you were.
Yep.
Like, especially the builders. Like, most of the builders you see on TV, it takes so long to get on TV. It's such a glacier speed to get on like a Discovery Channel show that like these guys started pitching their show when they were in their 30s and got it when they were like mid 40s, 50s. And that's why you see like so many older people on those shows. It just takes a long time. You got to pay your dues and you got to keep proving that you're going to keep building cool shit constantly for years before it really like comes together.
So what we talked about advice for young people, which we just, what would you give it to a young version of yourself at the beginning of your career? What if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice? What would it be?
You know, that's that's a hard one, because it's it's kind of like the failure question. Like, what was your biggest failure? It's really hard to self-reflect on that. But one thing that I think I've always needed more of is a little bit of patience. Like, I've always been like, I want to run down the hill and get one of those heifers.
Yeah.
And it's the classic old thing where you need that old bull who's going to be like, no, we're not going to run down there. We're going to walk down. We're going to unlock the gate. We're going to go get a drink of water. We're going to get all of them.
Yep. I think that's definitely it's a game of endurance. It's not a sprint, and you'll tire yourself out early on, and you'll lose all that energy and enthusiasm very quickly if you sprint down the hill, like you said. So let's get into a little bit of vehicle talk here as we start to wrap things up. What are you driving right now in terms of vehicle?
Like what's my stable, or what's
Yeah,
like
let's
the
okay.
daily
Let's go with this.
driver?
We can go with the stable.
Well, I've thinned the herd a little bit. I'll start with like daily drivers.
Yeah.
So like I'm hauling kids. So my wife's Explorer. I tried to not modify it without her permission, but I ended up putting like Trim Illusions blackout trim on it.
Yep.
It's got 1552 wheels on it. It's got a stage 1 kit from Ultra Racing, so like the full sway bar, strut, power brace, which that Explorers are notorious for a lot of body roll. So
Yep.
I can't speak highly enough about that product. My wife drives like Mario Andretti, so she hitting a turn, I don't want to roll that thing with the kids in the car. So that thing sticks to the rails now. And then like my commuter car, I moved up to San Francisco and was living like up in Petaluma where the American Graffiti was filmed. That's 30 minutes north of the Golden Gate. So I had to commute down to the city. And at that point I was driving, I bought the dad rod from Hot Rod Garage, the Magnum,
Okay.
and actually swapped in an SRT8 motor to it.
Okay.
I spent $450 in 1 month of gas commuting to work in that thing. It was like, well, a car payment for a hybrid is a lot cheaper than that.
I might have you beat in terms of gas. It'll be close because I commute an hour 20 minutes to the office every day, and
that's a long commute.
Yeah, it's a long commute. I fill up on gas 2, sometimes 3 times a week. So I may have you beat in terms of dollars spent in a month.
Well, I bought myself a Ford Fusion hybrid, so
yeah,
that's the. And I will say there's like I got the titanium edition, and there's nothing like air conditioned balls, like the seat that like just like
chill.
I never knew how much it was like a necessity in my life.
Oh yeah,
until I had it.
Oh yeah.
And now I'm literally trying to figure out a way for my 66 Chevelle to have air conditioned seats. It needs to happen. So
our Explorer that we have here in the family, my mom and dad, that thing has air conditioned seats, and man, I did not know that I needed that until now. But my mom doesn't like it. She doesn't enjoy the sensation of the cooled seat. But I'm like, that's fine. I'll drive, because that's for road trips. Having that, like when you're sitting in there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm back in SoCal too, like it's even more necessity. So enough about my balls. Anyways,
so you're gonna put bags on the Fusion and slam it then, right?
So I've been like really gritting my teeth every single time I want to do something to that. So like I blacked out some of the trim. I do think it would really do well with like a nice clean spoked 18-inch wheel with like a slight, just like a half-inch lower. I forget what drifter like took a regular Fusion.
Oh, and put the Coyote motor in.
Put the Coyote. Oh, like that's. I love the Fusion looks cool, right? It's got the DB9 Aston Martin style front end.
Yeah.
It's one of the last big American sedans.
One of the last American cars, period.
Yeah. 100%. So I do enjoy that car. Yeah, I mean, I've owned so many vehicles over the years. Like it got to a point one time where I was getting like default things where like DMV was tracking me down because I was like 5 years behind on paying the registration for my Model A, and had to pay like $1,600 just to be able to pay it, like sell it, because I was like, oh, it's in a shipping container. I forgot about it. And I was living in commercial spaces, and in America, if you live in a commercial space, USPS doesn't forward your mail. You have to like go in and like make sure every single person knows where your next address is. It's not just an automatic thing. So that's a pain in the ass if you don't know about it and you're going to live in like a loft space or a, live workspace. Like there's some downsides.
So what else do you have in terms of fun cars besides the Model A, or you had the Model A?
Yeah. So in 2012, I brought the first ever electric car, which is at Steve's Darnell's place. It's first electric hot rod to SEMA. And everybody made fun of me. Hot Rod Magazine wrote an article of how much of a dumbass I was for making a 28 Buick into an electric car. And then you fast forward to 2 years ago, and Jonathan Ward brings the Tesla swapped. What year was that? 49 Mercury, I want to say. And everyone's like, he's a genius. Like, where were y'all in 2012?
You were ahead of your time greatly. You were just too far ahead of the curve. They weren't ready for such
not
greatness.
Good to be ahead of the curve, apparently.
Sometimes it's not, especially at SEMA, because you're just gonna get made fun of.
Yeah.
So someone's got to break down the initial walls, man.
But yeah, I got a couple of the projects too that are not really worth mentioning. I got the 35 Ford with the matching teardrop. Obviously, that's my family heirloom.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm gonna leave to like my sons, and then hopefully they'll leave to their sons. But it's almost a 100-year-old car. Like I look forward to like teaching one of my sons. One of them's a little crazy already, and I could tell like I'm not going to teach him in the 35, but like I would love to teach my kid how to drive in a 100-year-old vehicle. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, I just think it's interesting that like in terms of classic cars, you're talking about an heirloom and passing it down, and this like what's going to be considered a classic car 60 years from now? Like people aren't going to like go to car shows and be like, look at that Ford Fusion. That was a beaut back in its day. Let me tell you, that thing, just a piece of craftsmanship. No one's going to say that.
Was anybody saying that about the Fox Body Mustang?
I mean, I guess that's true.
And now people love those things. The El Camino has like a cult following. You can't buy an inexpensive El Camino anymore.
But even those cars, like the styling and the craftsmanship, even though they weren't great like cars in their day, you still can't compare those to, I guess, what's being pushed out now in terms of even general vehicle quality.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see how it morphs. Who knows what a 16-year-old is going to want when he's older. I think he's probably going to want the car that his dad drove, that his dad would never let him drive, which is probably, some sort of, late model muscle car. And he's like, oh, that was the car that I wanted to drive when I was 16. And my dad wouldn't let me. So I'm going to buy it when I'm, in my 40s, and that's going to be my midlife crisis.
I mean, yeah, maybe there's the classic car shows are going to be a bunch of like Ford Focuses and GT86s. That's going to be the classic car show.
I mean, you're still going to see the mid 60s muscles. It's going to be harder and harder to buy.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's going to transition. My 66 Chevelle is a 4-door Chevelle, no post, which is really hard to find the no post. But I feel like 4-door muscle cars are going to go up in value. I feel like people that are a 2-door are going to be like, okay, well, I have a family now anyways. I'm going to get the 4-door. And I'm suiciding the rear doors on my Chevelle. So it looks kind of like a lightweight Lincoln Continental. Sweet. So I think that like showcasing what you can do with those kind of vehicles is going to kind of lead the way.
Yeah. The Dodge Chargers and stuff definitely see like the 4-door muscle cars definitely are kind of growing into the market because people want something that's just stupid amount of power, stupid fast, but you can get it past the wife because it's got 4 doors and you can put a car seat in the back. So
there's a reason why they made the Trackhawk and the SRT8 Dodge,
the Explorer ST, the Edge ST.
That they just yep.
So
100%.
So what is your dream car if you could have one? Classic, exotic, expensive, cheap, barn find? What if you could just go out and pluck any car you wanted? What would it be?
That's one of those things that changes over time as well. Like, obviously, like I'm building a 4-door Chevelle because I think that would be a super cool car to have with my family.
Mm-hmm.
But like my wife and I kind of own our dream car, which is the 35 that we're going to pass on.
Yep.
I would say if there's one that I really want to like end up building, like my next big build after the Chevelle is going to be like a 73 GMC Sequoia motorhome.
Okay.
They're so cool. Like they're very similar to the Stripes, the old TV show. They had one.
Yep.
But perfect primed vehicle to like make into a cool camping vehicle that also you can LS swap because it's got a 350 in it. So
I think, yeah, I love seeing the unique builds like that it's obvious. I mean, because the person who says they like Lamborghinis and Ferraris and this and that, like, you're not a real enthusiast, like, because you're looking at the dollar sign. You're not appreciating the vehicle for what it is. And I'm not saying there isn't people who like those cars who don't appreciate it for what they are, but there's definitely a value in terms of not solely dollars. You got to look at it and look at, man, somebody thought this out, put time into it, they put money into it. They didn't just write a fat check, and they went through and built it and created something that isn't out. It's a one of a kind. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate, like, you could build a sweet motorhome. People be like, that's just like an old beat up GMC motorhome. What's that? Like,
Yeah, I mean, the longer and longer you are in this industry, like the more esoteric your taste becomes, right?
yeah.
It's kind of really before I forget too, is like headlights. Didn't you design some like new headlight for older vehicles and stuff?
Yeah, so my 69
Yeah.
Torino, I was making kind of a Mad Max build with it, and 3D printed some Gatling gun headlight covers. So it looks like Gatling guns are coming out of those 5 3/4 lights. So have the machines to make the die cast, and built the die and started making them. So yeah, I just got the patent finally issued, so I started finally like actually letting people know about them. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, they basically just bolt right on. You take the retainer pin off any 5 3/4 light, which is like every vehicle from 50, I want to say 53 to like 78, because at one point it was like you could only have the 7-inch lamp, and then they said, okay, you can have now 2 high beam, low beam, 5 3/4 lights. And then they went into like the 80s. They were like, just do whatever you want. So tons of vehicles have these lights. Even like the KC lights on the Jeeps, kind of the same 5 3/4 lights. So yeah, it was something I wanted for myself, and was like, if I want it, there's probably 1,000 other people that want it. So why not invest in just making the die? I've never been like if I want to spend money on something, like I've always had the bad habit of being like, this is a good idea. Other people are going to want it. And I think the people are going to want this one. There's other stuff that I've created. Like I've poured, $65,000 into a steering wheel idea I had that like didn't go anywhere, because I realized it was really a $120,000 project and had to abandon it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I see something that I want for myself, and I'm like, I'm going to make it.
So on our Ford Ranger we're building with KC lights, I'll have a row of Gatling guns across the top of that.
I can make that happen for you. And they're 100% made in USA, and they're metal, they're aluminum. It's not some cheap plastic thing.
I think it's interesting that the best ideas come out of doing something for yourself that you don't necessarily think somebody else is going to want initially, and then you post a picture of it somewhere and everyone's like, I want that. What's that? And they're like, it's the stuff that, like, when you force it, it's never going to happen for you. It's never going to play out. It's never going to work.
Speaking spot on about the forcing thing, what caught my eye about that was that it just like, it fits so nicely and smoothly in this, and so nice and smooth in an old classic car, man. It's like, whoa, that's hard to do actually. It just looks so nice, and like something looks different about them. Like the headlights, are those Gatling guns? Like,
yeah. It's super easy to install. That was the most important thing. I think like a lot of the industry in general is going to go, really heavy into like bolt-ons. I just think people are, moving away from the trades, which I don't agree with. I think people should like learn how to weld, learn how to fabricate, and learn how to do like really custom stuff. But the general consumer is like, do it for me or make it really easy for me to do.
Really easy, really cheap, and really fast. That's what I want. And I want it yesterday. And I want it delivered Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's I think it's definitely, you're spot on with people wanting those quick, easy bolt-ons that give them some sort of drastic change in whether it's driving habits or comfort or this and that, whatever. So yeah, we'll see. Another note about SEMA, as I'm going down here in my show notes, they're jumbled up. How do you think indoor versus outdoor booths are going to change because of this, or in the future generally? Because the indoor booth atmosphere and the outdoor booth atmosphere is very different. But do you think we're going to see more companies pull their inside spaces and go outside, whether it's from coronavirus or just general value proposition?
I don't think they're going to do it because of coronavirus or anything. I think there's like an exclusiveness to be in like Central Hall, great location. I see a lot of companies like breaking up and having a smaller booth inside so they can have a bit of a presence outside. But I think what SEMA really needs to do a better job with is showcasing, like, if you're a general consumer and you want to see SEMA for the cars, like, you can fly in on Friday. You can walk the exterior without a badge.
Yeah.
See all the cars outside, and then you can also participate in the SEMA Ignited, which has all the cars from inside that come do a cruise outside. You get the whole experience. Spend Saturday night doing the Vegas thing. You had a perfect weekend in Vegas. You saw SEMA. You didn't have to go inside.
Yeah.
You saw all the stuff that you wanted to see from it. Then you went and did Vegas. You're home by Sunday. Like, they need to do a better job packaging that
and promoting that. I think people don't realize that that's a thing. People are like, oh, well, I can't go. Like, there's so much to do, like, outside of SEMA. Like, that section has been so massive. I mean, in the 2 years I've went, I've never even made it to, like, back by where Continental has their demo. Never even made it back there, just because the outside section is so big. And SEMA is so big, you could literally spend the entire day just going through the outside section and be perfectly content.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the integration of like sideshow stuff like Hoonigan does now too, like very entertaining area to like just go and walk around in. I mean, even like the white tents that you can't get into, you don't, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but you don't really want to go in there. You know, it's like, it's the overflow.
Yeah,
which is like hard to swallow if you're an exhibitor.
I wonder, I don't know, is there going to be that overflow this year?
Yeah, I mean,
everyone will be inside.
Everything's adaptable.
But yeah, there's nothing like you talk about the Hoonigan thing. It's just crazy coming in on the monorail, like while they're mid show, and you're just driving through like a burnout cloud in the monorail. It's just like white, and then you get out and you just sell straight rubber. Like, nothing beats, like, you're at SEMA, you get out of the monorail, you're going down the escalator, and you just smell straight burnouts. Like, that is just one of the best moments for me in terms of just the arrival and, like, the immersion. Like, I'm here, this is it, like, let's go. It's that moment is just so, like, ingrained in my head. Just
definitely sets the tone.
Yeah, just sets the tone for the week, sets the energy up right. I think that's really a good way to I like how they're doing those demos outside. Like you said, I think it's a mixed opinion on it, because you said SEMA could go back to its roots and be more B2B, and this, I think it's a balance. I think they need to have both.
I think they did a really good job of organizing and having them in charge of like that, delivering that performance so people could really appreciate it, man. And but what I liked personally was inside how they had the vehicle that actually does all the camera recording and stuff like that. You know, how the rig was all set up. Oh, that was really cool, man. It's something very different. You never have a chance to see
that Ford one that was outside, wasn't it?
No,
the Edge ST with the big boom
with
on
the
it.
boom and everything.
Yeah, that was outside in the
it's long week.
one of the Ford booths that they have outside, because they have like 12 outside. So, but yeah, that was. I mean, I think that's really neat. That's the kind of stuff that like that I kind of geek out on, seeing the like uniqueness. Like, you're never gonna see a camera. When are you gonna see a camera vehicle like that besides on like a film set?
Yeah, Larry did a good job kind of helping them design that. Larry Chen.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
But I think that having the outside section is good for publicity and good for general exposure of the event. But me and Joe were talking about this. If companies are moving more to the outside booth, how are you going to conduct a business meeting out there? Like, you can't. That's
the D2C area essentially, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is good to have. Me personally, like, you know, I go to SEMA to do business.
Yeah. I mean, we had a booth inside and outside last year, and Joe, you worked kind of both, right? And you said it was a very different vibe between the two.
Yeah, that was the first year ever actually at SEMA that I've worked an outside booth. And I worked the inside booth like a few hours one day and stuff like that. But very surprising, man. Totally different crowds. So it was good to see that. But like, which more of a reason, I think that, like you were saying, Jonny, some companies, it is good if you do that, because like you have, it's a thermometer, you know, you're measuring the temperature and on things and just seeing who's what questions they're asking and stuff like that. Getting to know someone else that you wouldn't, because on the inside they don't have a badge and they're never going to make it in and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good to A/B test every once in a while.
Yeah, I think definitely the A/B test, and I think this year will be the year of the entire trade show A/B test, and see the people who show up, how they adjust and pivot. And I was just thinking, like, if we all have to wear masks, Joe, I'm not working the outside booth. That's gonna be hot. Be sweating. I'm gonna be looking like Jonny over there, like with a mask on, like just just running down my face, like not being able to breathe. Like it's November, but it's Vegas. I remember like after walking around with like my backpack on all day, like you got like, your dress shirt on, your undershirt, and then you got like a backpack on, and you get back to the hotel and you're just like, this shirt's soaked because I had the backpack on all day.
This is the closest thing I have to an AC here.
Oh, there we go. Oh, it doesn't even work.
It works.
Oh, we're getting live demos here.
Oh yeah. There we go, Mom.
Be careful. Is that one of those orifice friendly ones?
Oh Jesus.
I think I just dislodged my gums attached to my lips.
Because when I used to work at a shop, you have to, in order for OSHA, you have to have one of those that's orifice friendly, which means it basically has like a bleeder. If there's too much pressure on it, it'll bleed out through another. I'm like, well,
I bet
who was the one that they had to make that policy for? Who?
Nothing in the garage behind me is OSHA friendly.
Yeah, because it's like the guy who was the guy who had to make that rule. I'd like to know who stuck that air gun somewhere it wasn't like up your nose. Like I'm gonna blast some boogers out. One like blows his nose off.
Yeah, I mean that thing will mess you up, man. You stick it up your nose, you're gonna have some air coming out of your eyeballs.
Yeah. I guess this has gone a weird way, and I guess people probably don't want to hear about us sticking blowguns and.
I think they do. We got to give the fans what they want.
We got to do the Tire Talk Part 2 after dark, like the unedited version, not on the Atturo YouTube. That's what we're gonna do, the even more uncut version of this show. All right, but I guess on that note, that's we've gone far too off topic to be continuing where we're at. I think we're just gonna continue. We're going to wrap this up. Jonny, do you want to just give a shout out to where people can find you, anything you're doing on social or otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, on social, I'm most probably active on Instagram, but like I said, I've been concentrating on having fun with the family lately and keeping stuff private, but still post there pretty often. Jonny the Mill, Jonny the Mill is my handle. Check out Alloy Studios. That's alloy_studios.com. There's cool stuff that we're doing there. You kind of see the business stuff that I'm working on, and yeah, man. I mean, feel free to follow me if you see me on here. Tell me that you saw me here, and make sure you follow Atturo Tires as well.
Oh, and thanks, if you see Jonny at SEMA, go talk to him and tell him you saw him on Tire Talk, and he'll be like, "What? What was that show?"
Come to the educational seminar too.
Yeah, come to his educational seminar.
Let's get the fire marshal again.
They're giving him more than just a closet this year, folks. So be sure to come by and check it out, and let's fill up that room too to see Jonny's educational seminar. But it's okay. We all, like you said, people aren't coming for you. They want to see.
Very true.
That's a change.
But that's what you said. You like pulling the strings, so that's exactly how you want it to be.
And on that note, do you want to pick Mark Driggers, since he was on early on and he said he had signed up for SEMA Launchpad? We'll pick him and we'll send him some cool stuff. If you want, we'll reach out to him.
We can do that. We'll send him a little
some cool stuff.
A little goodie bag, swag pack. I don't think there's any other fresh faces in here that I saw that commented. But if there's other people, I might pull a few people from the chat. I don't want to keep sending out the same stuff to the same people because I think they might just I mean, not that they don't appreciate it. I think they might get tired of getting the same swag pack every week. So on that note, that concludes episode 6, week 6 of Tire Talk with Atturo Tires. God, crazy to believe we've been doing this a month and a half now.
It's weird.
That's awesome. Absolutely insane. I didn't think I'd become the Joe Rogan of the tire podcast world so quickly.
This guy.
So it's okay. I'm saying it at the end of the show. No one's gonna watch this long. No one's ever gonna hear that. So on that note, everybody, that's episode 6. If you want to find us, head over to atturotires.com. Atturo Tires on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can find us there. If you're listening to this on the archive on Spotify or on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and follow us there so you can listen to us every week, because I know not everyone can tune in live, so be sure to do that. I think that's everything. Oh, head over to atturogear.com to get all your Atturo gear needs. As I was sitting here, I saw an email about the new shirts we're getting made. So that'll come very soon. We're having a bunch of new shirt designs we're working on. Those will be all live on our gear store very shortly. And we'll obviously probably give a ton away here, but be sure to check those out when they hit the gear store. We do have hats eventually coming soon. They're happening. It's in the works. I've been asked about hats since like day one I started here. Everybody wants them. They're coming very soon in retrospect to how long it's taken. So they will be coming, everybody. So on that note, we'll see you guys next week for episode 7 of Tire Talk. And who's our guest next week, Joe?
Miles Kovacs, actually.
Oh man,
from Dub.
So you I didn't have to follow him up.
Yeah, you were the warm-up act. So that's you got to be the warm-up act for Miles. So next week, that's
Miles is one of the best people I know. Like that. That's a guy who's like, doesn't matter how many millions of dollars he has in the bank, he'll like still like go out of his way to like serve food at one of the educational seminars or stuff like that. Like that guy is top notch.
Going to be a good show next week. So if you're watching, be sure to tune in. Follow us on Facebook to catch our future live streams. And I mean, what else? I mean, I think this is pretty entertaining. So
that was fun, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So until next time, we'll see y'all later.